Vicky, also known as DragonflySoars. You're watching DragonflySoars. Today is Tuesday. I believe it's January 21st. I'm not actually sure. And my phone where I would check is too far away. So anyway, it's about 6:45, I think. And I was home a lot earlier. In fact, I was home at a point where there was just enough daylight that I probably could have recorded. And then I just started futzing and doing something else, and it didn't happen. I would guess we're going to have cats today because they have both been extremely pesty and lovey today. In fact, Tigger's already here. Hi. Are you going to tell people about Snuggles? Are you going to tell them? So, I have... we'll just jump right in. Since Tiggy thinks he can jump right in. I have 2 Snuggles done this week. I finished this one earlier in the week. This one is the one that I had shown you that I had started. So, it is about 16 by 16. My squares are never quite square. If I lay them flat and I futz with them, I can make them square. But as soon as I pick them up, they end up wonky. And this one I finished earlier, which was the other thing that happened. I was working on this. So this one is also 16 by 16. So this one is all 2 of the same, well, it's 2 colors, but instead of like switching yarns and whatever, I actually finished using up the scraps. So this was pretty much the last of the scraps. It was a multicolored blue with a light blue. When I didn't run out of that, but however, I did have a small black and white kitty who thought the little ball of yarn was her toy and kept trying to run off with it. So finally I snipped it loose and I finished up with solid blue and light blue. And then it turned out that I ran out of the solid blue right at the end. So this little strip right here is the bright blue because I stole it back from the cat. So it's the bright multicolored blue. I actually don't pay much attention to it, except for the fact that I was just telling you. This one is 1 strand of solid brown and 1 strand of camel. This I actually bought at Joann Fabrics. So this I know for a fact is all Red Heart Super Saver, whereas the other ones have been all random yarn from the yarn that my son's girlfriend purchased over the summer when she found it at a garage sale. And while I was at Joann Fabrics, I bought some of this. Now normally, I have to tell you, normally I don't like homespun. However, for the comfort shawls for later this year, they almost consistently, all the patterns that they've shown me have used a boucle yarn, and homespun happens to be one of their favorites. Almost all the shawls use 4 skeins of homespun. I talked to the woman who helps organize it, the Threads of Compassion group through the Blood Center of Wisconsin. And first of all, I have to thank Jing Jing from Vegas, because she actually called Lynn, the organizer of the Threads of Compassion, and started talking to her about the requirements. And Lynn was kind of confused why someone from Vegas would be sending to Wisconsin. And then she finally got it all together after I contacted her again. I think she's still a little confused by the whole idea that there is a podcast and that strangers may be knitting comfort shawls. So, which makes me want even more, if you can knit a comfort shawl and send it this way, I would love to take a pile in there for them. I just think it would be fun. But I'm planning on going to a meeting on Tuesday. they have them in the time slot that I can go. They have them once a month. And I asked her, what should I bring? And she said, your hook or your needles. She said they will provide yarn there. Well, I just feel weird walking in and saying, I'm here for the free yarn. So I thought I would start a comfort shawl this week. So you probably won't see snuggles from me this week because I'm probably going to be, if I'm going to spend time crocheting, it's going to be starting the comfort shawl. Anyway, so all these things we're talking about are part of this year's inspiration along, which is our knit along, spin along, crochet along. Nobody's asked, but weave along would probably work okay too, because it's fiber related. So there all are things that are either based on our inspiration from our photos or part of our charities. And for January, February, our charity is the snuggles or pet blankets. I saw recently on a more recent episode of Sadie's that she technically isn't affiliated with Snuggles, so if you want, so you are, and not everything is going to Snuggles because they can go anywhere, any animal shelter that will accept blankets. So she said you just call them pet blankets. And if you happen to give your pet blankets to a Snuggles affiliated shelter, that's fine. But you can also give them to a non-Snuggles affiliated shelter. I'm not changing the name in our group. They can just be called Snuggles. I'm not playing the name game. It's kind of like the Ravelympics that had to change to the Ravelenics. I get it. I understand the idea of name branding. You have to watch out because otherwise every facial tissue becomes Kleenex, even though Kleenex is a brand name. So I understand why sometimes it's good to be protective of your name, but other times I'm still going to call it Kleenex. So, and as long as we're talking about our the inspiration photos, I haven't done them yet. Well, I did this one. This one, I have a picture of the cats like laying all over it. I can't put the Snuggles down to take a picture without my cats laying on them, so I've decided they must all be kitty approved. But this one, because it's all the blues, I'm saying it is also it goes in the Snuggle thread, of course, for our group and Sadie's group, but it also goes in the inspirational log because it reminds me of the winter picture. And this one, with the pinks, I'm going to say, reminds me of Valentine's Day. So I'm going to put this in the January, February photo inspiration, as well as the snuggle threads. And thank you so much to everybody that's been knitting snuggles and crocheting snuggles. I know Mom's done one, Tiff's done a couple, Kepik has done some, Crouching Cheese, Netta, and KPAR62. Kathy for sure has been doing some. I believe there's some others, and I don't mean any offense by forgetting. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. So, I'm going to post pictures of the snuggles here, those two completed ones, and all the prizes for this month. Well, you can see at the end in the collages. Also, I had told you I added a prize page, and at first I just had the collages. Last week I was behind, so I hadn't done the show notes. So I finally got around to doing last week's show notes today. I'm sorry, I normally don't put it off like that, but there's a lot going on, and maybe at some point I will share it, but right now I'm not going to. Well, let's leave it at that. I love you guys, but I don't want to air everything. But I had a lot going on in my head, so I didn't get that done. And then over the weekend, I thought it would get it done, but we ended up. Best friend is preparing for a guest that's going to be at his house, and so he had to do a whole bunch of cleaning. We had to buy furniture so the guest room would actually be a guest room and have a bed and place to put stuff. So we were shopping and assembling furniture and part of the time he was cleaning while I was assembling, because it was his cleaning was mostly sorting, and I can't sort for him, but I can assemble furniture. So I was doing some of that. He made a fabulous dinner. So, I mean, it all evened out. And anyway, so we were very busy over the weekend. And then, so, like I said, I just finally got to the show notes. Yeah, last week's show notes today. When I did the show notes, I'm really babbling today, I'm sorry. When I did the show notes, I enlisted in the show notes all the shops that there are prizes from. And if somebody actually also, if it was a shop that also had a donation, I put that in parentheses next to it. And then I also did a list of thank yous to the people who have donated. And then I put that same list of shops and thank yous on the prize page. I was going to break it out for each month to say who each of the prizes was from, but it started to get very long and very cluttered, and a lot of the same shops are being spread out through all 6 prize sets. So I just made a list. And when that pair of months comes and it's time for me to post the actual prizes, then I will actually do the individual photos and exactly where they came from and stuff like that, like I've done at the top of the current threads. So anyway, going back, I'm going to pause here, post the snuggles. Also, I'm going to post a picture of a present, another prize that Mom is donating, and it'll probably go for the comfort shawl. The comfort shawl, out of all of our charity knit-alongs, I think the comfort shawl takes the most dedication. Like I said, it takes all the, well, you have to, if you're not donating to me, you'll have to contact your local organization and find out what they want. But comfort shawls tend to use more yarn. I mean, 4 of these for 1 shawl is significant. They take more yarn, which costs more. It's more commitment. So I want to put some nice prizes in that one. Plus, that one is the one that is the most personal for us because it's related to honoring Dad. So the prize I'm going to post for Mom will go into the comfort shawl thread, or go into the comfort shawl prizes. So, and remember that snuggles have a start in date January 1st to February 28th. The rest of the charity things you can be starting now. And I know somebody already did a Halos of Hope hat, and they did it and they put in the inspiration, and really I can't remember what it was right now, but you can start a Halos of Hope thread. It's okay. Alright, pause, pictures. Alright, I apologize for the, babbling. I have a lot going on. There's a lot going on at work, there's a lot going on personally, and I just feel all sporadic. And I almost didn't record, but I was afraid if I didn't record today, you wouldn't get an episode this week. I've also worked on my socks on a plane sock, and as I've said before, the original pattern actually has a gusset and heel. I am doing this as an afterthought because of the way I lined the cables up with the stripes, and I don't want to mess up that sequence. So I'm doing this with an afterthought heel. I measured today and realized that it is actually about plenty long enough for me. So I'm going to knit a little bit more, do some ribbing, and then I will count this done until I do the heel. So I was really happy because I was felt like they were going on and on and on, and then realized that I actually haven't long enough. It's hard for me to visualize sometimes when there's no heel already in it, because I don't use a forethought heel. I don't put a waist yarn in there. I actually cut them open later, and it is hard for me to visualize how much of this sock is ankle. And then I measured it against the pair of socks I happen to be wearing today, and which is the best fitting afterthought heel I've made so far. And I've made a few of them, but for whatever reason this pair fits really well. So I decided to use it to measure, and went, oh, this is plenty long enough. I can stop and do ribbing. The other thing, I did not work on my twitchy socks. The twitchy socks are the light blue ones that are just pure stockinette. They usually are for very mindless knitting like movies or meetings, but I didn't work on them this past week. I did work on my Argonaut shawl, but I worked on it so little I didn't bother bringing it up. When we drove down to IKEA, I was working on it in the car. Then I lost a stitch marker, and my charts kept flying everywhere, and I finally decided it just wasn't worth it. So, this roving was in braids. It is Malabrigo Noob. It's their roving. And this is, I don't remember what the word is they used, because all their words are in Spanish, I believe. But it means mustard. This is the mustard yellow roving that best friend bought me for Christmas. He bought me 4 braids, so I have 16 ounces total. I'm hoping to spin it into a sweater. I will either, there is a t-shirt knit on knitty.com that I think I could use. Otherwise, I have a pattern from Tin Can Knits that uses a different color for the yoke, and then the rest of the sweater is in a different color. And I was thinking I could use this for the body and the sleeves and use a complementary color up on the yoke. I don't know. It will depend on how much yardage I get and what the resulting yarn actually turns into. I am struggling a little bit with this fiber because of the fact that it is really these fibers are really joined. It doesn't draft super smooth, so I actually pre-drafted what I've spun so far, a lot more than I normally would. But each of these balls is 1.3 ounces. I got them all mixed up, so they're all about 1.3. So I've got them all mixed up so that they'll be from different braids. I won't know which one. Eventually I will 3-ply everything together, and it should be pretty well blended with where in the sequence I spun it, which braid it came from, so it should the colors should blend. And to some extent, best friend really likes the blocks of color, but if I'm going to make a sweater, I don't want real blocks of color because I think I would look like a giraffe. So I'll mix it up as much as I can, which should give me the best chance at a uniform yarn. So when I am done and know how much yardage I get, I'll be able to tell. This is a really springy fiber, so I can spin it really thin, and then when it relaxes, it actually it poofs back up. So I'm kind of interested to see what it's going to do. I'm going to stop here and post a picture of the spinning that I've done so far. I haven't done very much. So far all I've done is one of these 1.3 ounce balls. Alright, I also spent a lot of time today before our recording looking on Ravelry because Utopia is coming up fast. I'm kind of startled by how fast it's coming. And that's in March. And one of the things is you have a swap partner, and you're supposed to have a homemade or handmade gift for your swap partner. And also there is a toy knit along. And so I was looking on Ravelry, looking at different toys and trying to decide what I have the time and energy to do while not giving up on the other things I want to knit, like the snuggles and the comfort shawl and my Argonaut shawl and things like that. So I got a book and I want to talk to you about it because I really like it, but I'm going to start out with a funny. So I ordered this book from Amazon, and it is the Alice Starmore Tudor Roses sweater, well, it's a pattern book. They're not all sweaters. So it is a gorgeous book, except for, does anybody see a possible issue? Yeah. She is upside down. This is actually a sticker, and it must have gotten stuck on upside down in the manufacturer. I could report it to Amazon and get a new copy, but frankly I've already, as you can tell, started marking things, and it is full of cat hair, and I don't know, it kind of amuses me. I mean, and if I tell them that they stuck it on upside down, then they'll make me give it back. And I kind of like my upside down book because it's a little quirky like me. So, the inside of the book is wonderful. And actually, I mean, you should be able to tell, this is a significant hardcover. I mean, and the pages are very good quality. They are thick, they are glossy. The photos, are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, she's gorgeous if I turn her the right side up. You guys missed it when I was in the car. Like, I don't know how many times I flipped this trying to get it right side up before I finally realized that the photo was upside down. And both mom and best friend weren't familiar with this book, so they both thought that this was a storybook, and they just assumed that the picture being upside down was part of the story. However, I posted on Instagram, and everybody was like, oops. So, or at least all the people that were familiar. So, Alice Starmore is a Scottish designer, and this is a re-release of a book she did quite some time ago. And when she re-released it, they did all new photos. I don't know what else changed. I had read on one of the reviews, I think it was on one of the reviews, I read somewhere, that not all the patterns are the same in this book and the past one. And it almost sounded like some of the ones that were in the previous version did not make it to this one, but there are additional ones in this one, but I'm not positive. So, I have all these pieces of paper because there were pages I wanted to think of. This first page is written like a old-fashioned poem. And it kind of lays the groundwork for the feel of this book. Then there's a whole section about the new edition, which probably, if I read it, would tell me about the missing sweater patterns. I didn't read it all. I read this section right here on the photographs, caught my attention, so I read that. And she said that Alice Starmore wrote the patterns. Jade Starmore took the photos. I suspect Jade is Alice's daughter, but I'm not actually sure. But she said that when she was thinking of people, sorry, I was just looking in the back. It does not mention at least at first glance, it does not seem to mention any relation between the two, but I'm sort of assuming. Anyway, Jade Starmore said that she had in her head visions of what she wanted the models to look like to match the various historic figures of the Tudor dynasty. And so she said that she did not just go by artwork. In fact, she tried to avoid artwork. She went by written descriptions and then decided what their image should be. So I thought that was interesting. And then they put out a casting call. And since it was a re-release, I guess they had time. There is a section about the Tudors, including a chart, family tree type thing. You know, Henry VIII had a lot of wives, so. Then for each of the historical figures, this is Elizabeth Woodville. This is her pattern page, or this is her sweater. And this is almost like a diary entry that she would have written. And all the patterns have that. They have 2 pages devoted just to showing you the image and a diary, and what's similar to a diary entry for that particular person. I am not showing you everything in the book, but there are, for all of these, there are several pages for the pattern. There are full schematics. I'm not sure how many patterns there are in here. There's quite a few. Oh dear. Okay, 14 patterns. That's significant. And this originally listed for around $40, but I got it for about $25 on Amazon. This one is full of cables, and there are better pictures. But I wanted to show the cabled charts are big enough that you actually can read them straight from here. So if you wanted, you could photocopy this 100%, 100%, no adjusting, and it would be fine. Here you can see the cable detail better. And isn't that necklace very interesting? There's a section in the back that discusses the jewelry, and it's cabled on the back as well. So there are several patterns that are cabled patterns. There are also several patterns like this one that are color work patterns. And I think the color work's gorgeous. The charts for the color work, again, are big enough to easily use. There's a schematic. This happens to be a really long pattern. Or a really long pattern. A really long jacket. There's several other colorwork ones. And then I had mentioned that not everything is a sweater, which is why I couldn't call it a sweater. This is actually a wrap. I think that's the only non-sweater. I haven't fully gotten to look at everything in here and really take it in. This one I just think is gorgeous. I would have trouble doing this in another color because I think those colors are so beautiful. That being said, it is highly unlikely I will make sweaters from this book because none of them are big people sizes. They're almost all the measurements. It'll say underarm buttoned should be this one is a little bit larger. This one's 45 inches. they all tend to be very fitted and very, not for large busted women. This I thought was just pretty. I mean, again, that's the back. And I love the back detail. There's another one here. I'm hoping I marked. Ah, yes. This one I think is pretty anyway. That's the front. And I thought the front was very pretty. And then I realized that there it is. The back also has the detail. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that one, but it's got cable detail in a V down the back that matches the front. And some of them, her hair, look at her hair, it's so wild. I think this is a really interesting and pretty book, and I actually want to read it. And I don't normally read pattern books. There's a section that's called About the Knitting. This section actually says why, it seems, I haven't read it all, but it seems to describe how that sweater or wrap became assigned to that historical figure. And then the very last section, I told you that we were looking at the jewelry. There actually is a little section in the back that focuses on the jewelry. It says that the jewelry in the photographs throughout this book was designed and made by students of jewelry design at the City of Glasgow College. And then it's got all the credits and everything in the back. It also in the back has a list of abbreviations, which would be good to know. So, upside down picture aside, I think that this is a really cool book to have. And which sounds really strange to call it, to say, I think that this knitting book is a cool book. Although, if any of you have seen Subversive Knitting, several podcasters have reviewed it. It puts swearing in your clothing. It is not for me, but I can see several people thinking that's a cool book. But I just think this is so neat, and I don't know if I would ever get around to knitting one of these, especially given the size constraints. But I wanted to have it. It really is one of those. I was telling best friend that this is an inspiration book. This is one where you go, wow, and think about, and it makes ideas run in your head. So this is the last of it. Mom finished her winter doll. It actually was originally going to be her December birthstone doll, but she ended up having a bunch of other things to get done because of the holidays. And so her December doll got delayed and became the winter doll for the inspirational log. So I'm going to post pictures of that at the end. Oh, important announcement. I almost forgot. The Blip, you guys all know that there have been issues with Blip. They kicked off a bunch of podcasts. So several people like JD of Twisted Strands ended up going to YouTube. They have now said that as of the end of February, I don't remember the exact date. I didn't get an email. I found the information on their website, and thank God that Cece Java Pearl of Geeky Girls Knits let me know. But I did not get notified. But they are no longer going to push videos to iTunes. So everybody, if they want to be, you can still post on Blip if you haven't been kicked off, but it won't go to iTunes, which was pretty much the only reason I was staying with Blip. I have been, for the most part, I don't always keep up, I have been dual posting to Hipcast, which is a paid podcast storage, and I know the feed there works because I copied that feed into Downcast. So when I post the podcast, I'm actually getting 2 different videos in my Downcast app, one for the Blip feed and one for the Hipcast feed, because I wanted to make sure that it worked. So I need to adjust my feed so it won't be Blip anymore. I'll still continue to post on YouTube. I don't know when they change the feed. Blip is offering to help us change the feed. When I change the feed, you may have to unsubscribe and resubscribe. I don't know. I will try to put notices out there when I do know. Several podcasts have, again, we keep running into things. Now, if Blip isn't going to push to iTunes, some of the podcasts may have no way to go to iTunes. So if some of your podcasts seem to have disappeared, they may have gotten caught up in this. You may be able to look for some on YouTube. And I know that Hippie Penguin and her husband are working on Podfiber, which is a new podcast storage and feed, specifically for crafting podcasts. I mean, that's what what they're kind of going for. And they had raised some money with a not a Kickstarter, I think an idea to go. Anyway, so some podcasts are waiting for that to come up and hopefully be able to push to iTunes that way. Anyway, so if you see people disappearing, that's why. I'm going to have to change my feed after this week, so I will let you know for sure next week. But if I seem to disappear, and you can always check Ravelry, and you can check the blog if I have a post, and YouTube. If I have a new episode up and you didn't get it in your iTunes or Downcast app or whatever else you use to grab it, you may have to unsubscribe and resubscribe. And some of your other podcasts you may have to go hunting for if you don't see them for a little while. I've been kind of trying to avoid that one. That was one of the things that happened last week, and it was just like, really? Really? And that's not even the major one. That one was just more the straw on top, you know. So, yes. Now I think we're done. I will talk to you guys all later. I know that some more prizes will be coming because Embroiderer Queen Nicole of Knitting Geisha shop has contacted me, and so has Crimson Orchid. So I am waiting for more information. Angela, Angel Mom, is a big part of the Halos of Hope, and so she's hoping to donate a prize. We need to work out some details. And Victoria Blue may also donate something when she gets settled. She moved again. So, speaking of moving, Tiff's doing good. She now has furniture and boxes, so she's getting settled. I will talk to you guys all next week. I need to start processing. Recently there was a Knit Girls episode, and they were talking about the time it takes to do a podcast. And I'm listening to them going, yep. So I'm not going to say it, but but if you watch one of the latest episodes, I think it was their very last one, somebody asked about it. It's like, yeah, it takes quite a bit of time for something that we do for free, for fun, for the utter enjoyment of doing it, but it is work too. So bye now. I'm going to stop rambling.